What do you do when your woke boyfriend crashes out on you over an offensive joke? We're going to discuss this and all your other horror stories, personal life scenarios, and questions that you have for me in this Voicemail Friday episode of the Brad versus Everyone podcast, my daily show where we take on the craziest ideas from across the internet, the media, and our politics, all from an independent perspective. Up first, we've got a real doozy of a voice note from a listener to the show who's going to tell us about her really bizarre experience with a woke boyfriend that she had. Now it's thankfully an ex-boyfriend. I don't even really know how to do a prelude to this one. You're just going to have to hear it for yourself. Take a listen.
Hi, Brad. I'm sorry. I'm Kenzie. I'm 16. I really love your content. So what happened was I'm a lot more right-leaning, although I found myself closer to the middle, and my ex-boyfriend, was a lot more left-leaning. And one day at an event, I made a joke about gay people, and he got kind of weird about it. And then later that night, he called me and he started fighting with me about the joke. And uh, he started calling me disgusting. By the way, the joke wasn't bad at all. It was like simple humor. But he called me disgusting, a bitch, a retard, all these things. The funny part is that I'm bi, so I really don't know why he was getting all like weird about that. Because I've kissed girls. Like I'm gay. Like I like women. I like men too. But anyways, I just thought that was really crazy, and how he was really radical left, and he still treated someone that way, even though they're all about love and acceptance. Thank you so much for listening. Bye bye.
So the best part of this voicemail is the fact that he's an ex-boyfriend because girl, it's not normal for your partner to treat you like that ever, to call you those kinds of names, let alone over a freaking joke. And can we just talk about the hypocrisy, the audacity for him to be mad at you for being problematic and joking about being a gay joke when you're bisexual, so you're part of, broader like gay community or whatever, and yet he called you retarded because he disagreed with you? That's like, by his own logic, worse. What? The audacity. And just like it must be exhausting to try to maintain relationships with people who are genuinely bothered by humor. It's like, where did the idea of, oh, well, the intention is what matters? Where did that idea go? Because with so much of this, oh, that offensive joke, oh, that microaggression, like the intent doesn't matter. I've even heard woke people say that the intent doesn't matter, when in fact, the intent is really all that matters, especially when it comes to loved ones and like understanding a difference or disagreement that you have with them. That is what should matter most if you're like a healthy, well adjusted person. But this person is clearly not. And it's crazy because normally even the woke people allow you to like joke about or say offensive things about your own community. You look at how they're okay with black people saying the n-word and these kinds of things, and I just frankly think everybody should be able to joke about stuff and none of it's that deep and everybody needs to take a Xanax. But it's bizarre that he crashed out on you like this. It's very much giving like beta male. Nothing about this is giving the energy of a man that's worth your time, because you sound like you have a good head on your shoulders. You're somewhere in the middle politically. You're a smart young woman. Don't waste your time on dusties like this. Woke and dusty is a terrible combination in a male suitor. So you dodged a bullet, my friend. And this guy sounds scary. People stay away from men like this, not because they're liberal, not because they're Democrats or whatever. I mean, good people can have different political views, but because they're psycho and think it's okay to treat people like this over literal jokes. Even if even if you did say something that hurt his feelings or upset him for whatever reason, this is not how a healthy adult would ever, and I mean ever, handle that. This is deranged, what you've described. So my heart goes out to you, and I'm so glad that you left him in your past. What do you guys think? Can you believe this voicemail? Remember the link to send in your own woke horror story or personal life situation you want my advice on, or your question you have for me about politics or life or anything else, really, the link to send one in is in the description. Do make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you aren't yet. Do hit that like button while you're at it. Comment with your thoughts. I do read the comments. Also, guys, remember, you can listen to the Brad versus Everyone podcast on the go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Now we're going to hear a really sad story from a woman who lost her partner, her boyfriend, and he left their family because he decided to come out as trans. We're going to hear this really heartbreaking story after this. It increasingly seems like culture war stories are at the heart of our politics, but these are the exact stories where it can be hardest to figure out what's actually going on. Media spin and partisan bias aside. The only way to figure out what's really going on is with Ground News, an amazing service I've used for years that helps me prepare this show. Ground News gathers news all around the world in one place, so you can see what both sides are saying and make up your own mind. Take California's ongoing feud with the Trump administration over transgender athletes in women's sports, for example. If you look at the left-leaning headlines that Ground News has aggregated, they read, for example, this one from the San Francisco Chronicle, California won't comply with Trump demand for state to ban trans athletes. But if you look at right-leaning media, like this report from the Daily Signal, California defies Trump again as state refuses to follow trans athlete order. There's a big difference there. And if you don't take my word for it, the Nobel Peace Center even called Ground News an amazing way to stay informed, avoid echo chambers, and expand your worldview. Plus, it's been recognized by Apple as App of the Day 5 times across 38 countries. Stop missing out. You can get the same plan that I use, which is the Vantage subscription, by going to the link on screen, ground.news/Brad, or by scanning the QR code on screen to get 40% off your access, which comes out to just about $5 a month. This exclusive discount is available through my link, so act now to burst your media bubble and keep your critical thinking skills sharp. So there's a discourse about a topic called trans widows, which are women who have their male partners leave them. Maybe it's a divorce in a marriage, maybe it's a romantic breakup of a long-term relationship, maybe there's kids involved. Whatever the situation, their long-term male romantic partner leaves them to come out as transgender and start identifying and living as a woman. And I can have sympathy for people in this situation in terms of the male side, but not when they just abandon their families. That's really a red line for me that I can't understand. And it sounds like that may be what happened in this person's instance and story. Let's listen to this voicemail.
Hi, Brad. I realized my last voice note probably sound really like muffly due to me working, but I just wanted to share and maybe get a comment or two from you because I'm struggling with something hard. I'm a single parent of 4, and my significant other left me after 5 years of being in a relationship together because he wanted to be a woman, and I'm open to that stuff. But I'm fairly new to the trans site, believe it or not. Over the last like year and a half, it was kind of like not even on my radar. And my kids, it took a definite big impact, and I'm kind of struggling to, keep the relationship with my kids. Said person isn't around anymore. They just disappeared off the face of the earth and prioritize themselves at the end of our relationship before me, my children, and such. I don't share any children with this person, but um, said person has been in my youngest's life since she was born 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So it's a little disheartening. My kids definitely struggle with this, and I do too, very much so. Um, but yeah, that's kind of my story there. And
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And honestly, my heart goes out to you and to your kids because that's so hard. That's so tough. That's so rough. And to clarify, guys, it seems that this person is not the biological father of any of her kids, but was a live-in partner and so played a role in the kids' lives, especially for the youngest child who, since birth, basically had this male person in their life as a kind of, family figure. And it is so hard when a relationship ends like that, the effect that it can have on people, especially young kids who don't understand these things. And I just don't think there's really any excuse for this decision on his part in terms of the abandoning the kids, cutting, just ghosting, just leaving, all of this. I can understand that if you truly feel like you have to do this, you've had this untreated mental issue for years and years and years, and the only way you're ever going to be happy is to go out and live like that. And maybe that means the end of your relationship. I don't know. I can see both sides to that. I can see the argument that you should do that if it's the only thing that's going to bring you peace, or the argument that you might have to prioritize your family and not put yourself first. But the ditching, just the complete cut off contact, the no maintaining any relationship, not being there for you guys at all, that I really can't wrap my head around. That's truly selfish beyond belief. And there's a lot of people out there. I don't know the numbers. There's not statistics on this, but there's a significant number of people who've had this experience, and you're not alone. It's really sad. My heart goes out to you. I don't really have a solution. I wish I did. I wish I had something I could do or say that would make it better. Um, with the kids, I mean, you just have to try to explain it to them as best you can, I guess, as they get older in an age appropriate way, and time will heal, hopefully. And then I'm not saying you weren't the first time. I don't know. Maybe you were, but I would definitely be very judicious and cautious about introducing a future partner into your kids' lives in such a dramatic way. Maybe you were. Maybe you did everything right. I'm not saying you didn't, but just in case in the future, because you never know what can happen. And especially with younger kids, if they become attached to someone and then that someone leaves their life, that can be really tough. And it sounds like that's what happened here. And I feel like this doesn't get talked about enough because people are afraid to talk about any of the downsides of trans people being their authentic selves. And some of them, that is what they're doing. But sometimes, and this is the other uncomfortable angle here, there is a portion of the trans women who are biologically male. This does not describe all of them. This does not describe the traditional trans person, but there's a portion of them for whom it's essentially a fetish called autogynephilia. And if in that case, if it's not a true medical condition, if it's not something they've struggled with for decades, it's just something they fancy in a particular way, then I think prioritizing that is actually awful. But regardless, I wish I could help. I wish I could fix it. I can't, but my heart goes out to you and your kids, and hopefully time will help. Up next, we're going to listen to a wild story that involves NPR and a woke bunny rabbit. Seriously, I guess. Let's listen.
Hi, Brad. Thank you so much for everything you do. I love your podcast and your channel. And I posted this in a comment before, but your podcast actually helps me get through my workouts at the gym. But anywho, I live in a very liberal college town in Northern California. So take with that what you will. And I used to be friends with this guy who started dating this chick who was basically everything that a far right conservative assumes that leftists are. Like everything from the septum piercing to the Crayola box hair color. Like she was a walking stereotype and was like super woke. Anywho, she started dating my friend. And my friend and I, we both come from very conservative backgrounds. Both of our parents are right wingers, and they voted for Trump in the 2016 election. And she basically broke up with him and unfriended me because we didn't immediately disown our parents for voting for Trump. Like, I mean, even though we disagree with them politically, I mean, like, they're still our parents, right? But like I said, she was a walking stereotype, and she even got a pet bunny, and she would play NPR for him to listen to because she wanted to have a woke bunny. I wish I was exaggerating. Anywho, thank you. That's my story. Have a good one.
Well, thank you for sharing this story, because this one, I mean, I think it's amazing on so many levels. First, I love that you listen to me during your workouts. We are slowly defeating fat positivity, one podcast at a time. Let's go. In all seriousness though, I have to tell myself that the woke bunny thing is like a joke, that she doesn't actually believe that playing NPR can make her bunny woke. That has to be a bit. She has to be joking, because if she actually believes that, that if any person could actually believe that, then bring on the floods. Um, but in all seriousness, this is deranged. Like, this is insane. The idea that you can expect people to cut off their parents over political differences. What good would that do? Seriously. Oh no, Trump, Susie cut off her mom, so now Trump will never recover. He's not going to be able to implement any of his agenda. He has to leave the Oval Office. Like, you really think that you're doing your big one just by breaking up families over politics? You're having no effect. If anything, you're probably pushing. If that were to happen, which I'm glad it didn't, you did the right thing. Um, if it were to happen, it just pushes people, MAGA hardcore people, deeper into their bubble, right? It cuts them off from family members who disagree, who maybe could offer different perspectives or push back on things. Like, that's actually how people moderate, is by encountering other ideas. So you're accomplishing nothing while tearing apart families and only exacerbating the divides in this country. Other than that, your woke friend is doing amazing. I mean, it's such a shame you don't have her in your life. She just sounds like an absolute delight. Like, also, where do you get off as a friend or even as a romantic partner expecting people to cut off their parents? Like, it's very audacious. Very, who gave you the right or the authority to make such a demand? Honestly, this would have been a problem though. So it's good that for your I think you said it was your friend or whoever was dating this person, that this relationship ended because you dodged a bullet. And the like kind of woke thinking or toxic political perspective that leads someone to do this would have led her to do other crazy stuff down the line, and potentially worse. True also for you as a friend. So you got out at the right time. Perfect. Thank her for seeing herself out, because that was a win for everyone involved. That's my take. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Next, we're going to hear from somebody who wants advice about keeping an open mind politically.
Hi, Brad. I love the show. My name's Dan. I'm trans. Um, and growing up, I was the woke, extreme left-leaning, I demand, you call me this, this, and this. Um, and then some personal stuff happened. I moved out when I was 19. And then after I moved back, with my parents, my political view changed significantly. I went the other direction, I guess. Um, and now I kind of feel politically lost, I guess, um, because I was on track to be an extreme, uh, right-leaning person. Um, what would you recommend for someone in my position where like we were pretty much on both sides politically, and now trying to find where to land, I guess. How would you go about learning about everything without taking up like hours and hours of your time? Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for this voicemail. It's a really interesting question and perspective. I'd love to know what happened in your personal life that changed you, snapped you out of the ultra left wing mindset. It's funny because your story is actually very relatable to me. This kind of happened to me. I've talked about this before, but I went to a super left wing college, ultra woke, microaggressions, pronoun circles, literal communist economic professors who call themselves Marxist feminists, all the like. And I was like, ew, not for me. No, thank you. And at first I was like, oh, maybe I'm super right wing. And then over the years, I've come more towards the middle. I've realized that both political parties suck and are terrible, and that especially in the Trump era, a lot of what Republicans stand for and do, I don't agree with. So I still would say I'm center right or right of center politically, but I'm definitely not as right wing or diehard as I was, and I've become disillusioned with it all. So it doesn't surprise me you've had a similar experience. I think a lot of people feel that way. what I would say in terms of your actual question, in terms of this question of how do I figure out what I really believe? Honestly, you sound young. I'm assuming there, but you sound young. There's no rush. There's no pressure. That's my first piece of advice. Don't rush into a new ideology, a new, like maybe it's a cult, right? Like you don't need to jump into another group that has a hardcore set of beliefs. All I would simply recommend is that you find multiple sources of accessible news and information and perspectives. There's this really great show called the Brad versus Everyone podcast on YouTube, iHeartRadio podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You get what I mean. You get what I'm doing. But like, forget about me. One, I would recommend going to nonpartisan news sources and aggregators like Ground News, today's sponsor. Check out the link. But even like my sponsorship aside, another great one is Tangle News. There's other sources just to check in and kind of see what everyone is saying. And then I would just find like two or three different, maybe like podcasts, maybe like YouTubers, people from very different perspectives. So one who's more right wing, one who's more left wing, maybe one who's more center, and just listen to them regularly and engage with their content and stay attuned to what the whole perspective is saying as best you can as a casual observer for whom this is not your career, it's not your life like it is for some unhinged people like me. And just over time, I think you'll realize maybe which one of these perspectives you align with more, or maybe you don't align with any. And that's okay. Unless you're looking to have a career as a political operative or run for office, you don't actually have to have all the answers. You don't have to have one ideology that could solve everything. That's a foolish trap that I think I fell into a little bit early in my career. That's like, I have to figure out what I believe and what the answers are to everything. Actually, I'm just a dude. You're just a person. Like, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to have solved all the most profound questions. And especially when you're young, it's sometimes better to admit that you don't have all the answers. That's my take, but it sounds like you got a good head on your shoulders and you'll be all right. Okay, up next, we're going to hear from somebody who was banned from Reddit for daring to have a different opinion. Shocker, this one. Let's listen.
Hey Brad, I've actually sent in a voice note before that you reviewed on your videos. Love your content and everything. And I was watching your Friday voice note episode that just came out, and one of the stories kind of made me think of another thing that happened on Reddit of all places, which is interesting. And it kind of speaks to why I've recently distanced myself from the whole like queer space slash LGBT specific celebration because of experiences like this. So I was part of a LGBT plus like subreddit, um, and there was a kind of open-ended question on there, and it was like, would you as a lesbian date a trans woman? And so I figured, like I could answer this question. So I said like, hey, me personally, like as a lesbian, I'm attracted to women, and part of that is being attracted to women's bodies. And so like me personally, I might not be looking for trans women when I'm looking to date, but that doesn't mean that there isn't someone out there for you. And so I phrased it in like a really compassionate and like also clear way, and I got banned. I got banned. I did not expect that at all. Like when that email came that I've been banned, I went and I looked under all the responses, and they were all like affirming them, like saying, "Oh yeah, I would." So I'm sure they were doing some filtering of those comments.
So I was with you, but then you lost me. You lost me on one piece of this when you said, I did not expect that at all. Girl, you should have. It's Reddit. Reddit is a cesspool. Not only is it an echo chamber of the most extreme and unhinged perspectives, it also attracts like the frequent Reddit poster. And if there are some of y'all in my audience, it's not necessarily you. I am generalizing here, but it attracts a certain type of like sociopath that dominates these threads and is the super posters and the ones constantly voting things up and down. And the idea that you were ever going to have reasonable debate or discourse on Reddit was setting yourself up for failure. But of course, it's absurd. You should be able to say that I'm a lesbian, so I'm attracted to female bodies. That's not a hot take. Like, don't let them gaslight you into thinking that's a hot take. It is not, in fact, a hot take, and it is homophobic for them to suggest otherwise. Of course, they just want to be affirmed in their delulu. That's what people on Reddit do. But rest assured, a lot of people out there, even people in the LGBT community, even many lesbians, who maybe even lean left, they agree with you. Maybe they agree with you quietly. Maybe they're scared of these people too, but less so. Their cultural influence and power has waned significantly, and maybe they still dominate like niche Reddit threads, but culturally, not so much. So don't feel bad for a second. You did nothing wrong except maybe going to Reddit and expecting any kind of reasonable discourse. Maybe you did do one thing wrong, my friend. But thank you for the note. Thanks for sending in your stories and tuning into the podcast. And send another one in sometime. All of you. Links in the description. I love getting these from you. And even if I don't play yours on the show, it doesn't mean I won't. I have some of them saved and I might go back to them. And also, it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate it. I listen to them all. I listen to every single one that comes in. I can't respond to them all. I can't cover them all. We're getting hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands soon. So, let it be known. I still appreciate y'all. Up next, we're going to hear from a minor who had a really terrible experience simply for supporting Trump. Let's listen.
Hi, Brad. I'm Diana. I'm 15, turning 16 pretty soon, so a bit young, but I decided to make a recording anyway. I mainly have right sided views, and I would say I'm mainly a Republican, and that's just where my views align. And when Trump became president, I was really happy since that means, it's better for my family with our situation. And I, watched his campaign and I was really interested in it, watching the news all the time. So I was really excited to have him as president. There's a couple things I don't agree with, but overall, I was really happy and I preferred him over any other candidate. So I posted about this online. I posted just me celebrating, being happy, and I was ridiculed by people who are my age and also adults. I was sent threatening comments. I was sent just hate, talking about how I'm fat, how I'm ugly, attacking my father, attacking my mother, people finding pictures of me and posting them and trying to make fun of me and making accounts, making separate TikTok accounts and posting videos hating on me. And also in the school setting, people would avoid me, not listen to my opinion, act like I didn't matter. And that's still kind of how it is. But I'm just wondering if I should have thought about these repercussions before putting my opinion out, which I feel like I should be able to do that since it is a free country and I have free speech. Thank you. I love your podcast. Have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for the support and for the voicemail. On your final question, just to tackle that first, should you have maybe thought this might happen if you spoke out politically? Maybe like a little bit, just because of how unhinged crap can be in this country. For me, it would kind of depend on where do you live? Like, do you live in a super blue area? Do you go to a super woke school? If so, then maybe I would have anticipated a little bit. But to me, it really doesn't matter. Like, I'm not going to sit here and blame the victim. All of this is unacceptable. All of this is insane. It's unacceptable from your peers and other teenagers. But it's exponentially more unacceptable and insane and evil from adults. Adults bullying a 15-year-old for supporting Trump when you can't even vote. And even if you did, it wouldn't justify it. But like, you couldn't even vote for the man. You literally didn't even impact the election, and they're insulting you. It's unhinged behavior that's totally unacceptable for them. They need to get help. I would say just don't beat yourself up too much. Don't victim blame yourself and say like, oh, I should have known better with the skirt that I was wearing by supporting Trump. Like, maybe a little bit, maybe be more cautious in the future. But at the same time, that's kind of letting the haters win. That's kind of letting the extremists who want to bully people out of exercising their right to support whoever they want and speak freely. It's kind of letting them win. So maybe don't do that, actually. Maybe stand on business 10 toes down. That's what I would do, though I understand not everyone can. And that's a kind of calculated decision people have to make for themselves. At the end of the day, you didn't deserve this. It's not okay. And it's sad that we live in a world where people think it's okay to treat each other like that. And if you are trying to grow or expand a political movement, this is like the worst freaking way to do it. Does anyone think you're going to be reached by that? I mean, a 15-year-old who supports Trump, may well be an adult who's a Democrat. Like, people change their views all the time, but if you castigate them, attack them, and bully them and try to write them off as evil, they're probably not going to want to change their mind and hear what you have to say. Spoiler alert, like breaking news, water is wet. How do people not understand this? It's genuinely beyond me, but my heart goes out to you. I'm really sorry I had to go all through that, and stay strong. Don't let the haters get you down. All right, everybody. That'll be it for this episode of the Brad versus Everyone podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Please do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Do hit that like button while you're at it. Comment with your thoughts. Let me know which one of these voicemails was your favorite. Remember, the link to send in a voicemail is in the description. And with that, guys, we'll talk again real soon.